Hello, hello, my name is Clark Heron, aka the Hairy Hobo, and welcome to another episode of AKA Sports. And with me, as always, the man simply known as Fletch. Fletch, welcome once again. Hopefully, your weekend has gone well this week. We kind of talked about a little bit off air, a little bit slower of a week. It's one of those down weeks for college football. The only one on this weekend is the Army Navy game, which they actually separated from the list of scheduled from years past where it was on the same day as championship weekend, but they kind of pushed it on its own day. Uh, Two quick questions before I get to the actual opener here, because just opened up with college football. Number one, have you ever watched an Army Navy game all the way through? And B, who do you think is going to win this year's rendition of said game?
No and Navy. I watched the beginning of the game, and if it's good, I'll probably tune back into it. But that's about as good as it gets for me on that game. Especially on the day on its own. Now, I don't know. I think the viewership has gone up, but just for me, man, it's a tougher game to get through.
I 100% agree, and I can understand why they moved it to its own day, just because it was hard to get viewership when all these championship games were happening, especially like the MAC championship. Kind of hard to play against that, but yes, it's about the pageantry of that game and of that quote unquote rivalry. But I also would vote Navy to win this game. But if you haven't seen the beginning of this game, how the how everything just plays out, I definitely recommend that you do watch the front end of that. As for the actual game, just like you said, I'll keep an eye on it. If it looks good, I'll tune into it. But just not having anyone close to me within the ranks of the military, it's not something that I jump into. Very similar esque to other teams that are out there. Since I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm not going to jump into a Washington State Apple Cup unless both teams are good, something along those lines. But
Exactly.
I digress. Let's go ahead and get to that opener. The Arizona Coyotes almost didn't have a stadium to play in. There was a problem with the fact that they just weren't paying their taxes uh, to the point where they were, at least at this point, according to ESPN, they were down $1.3 million in unpaid city and state taxes. It seems like not just one time this has happened. Seems like this has happened multiple times to the point where they actually had to put a tax lien on the Coyotes. But good news is they did get at least $250,000 of those taxes paid, so they're not going to get locked out. Fletch, how? How do you get to this point?
It sounds like the hockey team isn't making much money, Clark. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like they got some things to figure out. We had mentioned this off air a little bit. We found it's very funny, but at the same time, I would expect they mentioned that they expected them to possibly move as well. So well, I mean, well, we mentioned it too, man. Like there's Arizona and hockey. I mean, let's be honest, it's probably why you're having some issues paying your taxes. So yeah, get up out of Arizona, man. Go to somewhere where it's cold, where hockey's appreciated, and make you some money.
Agreed. Yeah, I know they wanted to reach out into the West, and they've had some decent teams in years past, back when they were the Phoenix Coyotes. But yeah, it's kind of like, sadly enough, having multiple baseball teams in Florida, especially in Tampa Bay. It just, for some reason, it just doesn't work. Even though that one makes more sense than having an ice hockey team in the desert. But
Right.
we don't have that much time for this podcast to do a deep dive into that. But maybe one of these days we'll do a deep dive into that. We actually do have a little bit of news and notes this week, a little bit less than usual. Like I said, it's a little bit slower of a week, but we will dive into a little bit of the college football coaching scenario, the pros and cons of it, the timing of it, uh, all the bits and pieces that either you're in favor of or you're not in favor of. I don't think there's really that much in between. Well, and then we'll continue to do our pick six this week as well as our NFL top 10. Fletch, I'm going to throw the reins over to you for this news and notes. Tell us about the fighting world. What kind of news can we look forward to, and what kind of fights can we look forward to this weekend?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, First off, man, I actually want to lead off with one fight. Totally forgot about. That was Javante Davis versus Isaac Cruz. Isaac Cruz was a fill-in, was still a contender, and I'll be honest, Clark, I was very surprised, man. Tank Davis was pushed to the limit. Um, he didn't get a knockout. He only held that he had 25. He was 25 and 0, 24 knockouts. And this was his toughest fight. I had the card 7-5 in favor of Davis, but I will say I think he lost rounds 9 through 12. So this was very interesting. Something to keep an eye on in the future. Other boxers I know watch that fight. Not saying he's exposed or anything. I just don't think he was on his A game. But that was very interesting. Moving on, we got Keith Thurman finally returning to the ring since he lost to Pac-Man back in 2019. He's fighting Mario Barrios, who's actually lost to Javante Davis recently, and now he's moving up to the 147 weight class. They actually have a date on this fight, January 29th. It's good to see Keith Thurman back in the ring, man. His only loss is against Pacquiao, so I'm interested, what he'll bring to the table. It seems like not so much a warm up fight because Barrios is a good fighter, but it is something that I think Thurman should be able to handle pretty well. I'm personally expecting a knockout. It's Fox pay per view, by the way, January 29th. Um, Next one we got, man. It's not so much more so the fight. It's more so what we mentioned last week about Spence and Crawford. Spence and Crawford hold belts in the same division. Ugis holds the belt that Pacquiao used to have, that Spence was supposed to have, had he been able to fight in that fight, but instead had to have surgery on his eye. However, Ugis has another fight lined up that's supposed to happen sometime in the spring. This tells me, Clark, that we may see Spence Crawford before we see anybody fight Ugis first. So I'm happy to see that. That's what we've been waiting on, Clark. That's the fight we want to see. We don't we those are the two titans right now in that division. So we want to see that first before anything else. After that, it's pretty much cleanup duty. Sorry, Ugis. So that's pretty much all in the boxing world, man. It's been very boxing world seems very fluid as of lately. Just some key biggest thing to keep up with is really the main fighters, the notes, and any up and comers, any weight class changes. And then obviously, man, just keep an eye on the title fights, and that kind of tells you all you need to know. Same thing with UFC. We'll move into this weekend. We have Oliveira, who's the title holder here at the lightweight division, going against Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, he won the trilogy against McGregor since McGregor had broke his leg in the last fight. Um, both really good fighters. Oliveira defended his title against Michael Chandler with a second round knockout, very impressive in his last fight. And then obviously Poirier, he's been on the tear as of the last couple years. So this is a fight that's kind of been in the works. I'm very interested to see how this one goes. Poirier is actually the favorite in this one, being the challenger. So personally, I think that's correct. That's who I would choose. But it'll be a good fight. And then you got Amanda Nunes back in the ring here against Pena. I think we can expect, what Nunes usually does. So that's all we got, man. That fight is Saturday. I believe main card. I don't know. It's ESPN Plus. It starts at 8 or 10, man, and they got fights on all day. Regular ESPN. If you in the fights, they'll probably be on at like 3. It's probably what it is. It has bowl games started yet, Clark? I don't think bowl games will interrupt this, will it?
No, this weekend's just the Army Navy game.
That's right. Okay, so we got Army Navy game. Matter of fact, if you just sitting in front of the TV, you can watch Army Navy game and you can watch all the UFC and drink all the beer you want till you pass out past after midnight. How about that? Be a
Hey,
sport filled weekend. That's what you got this weekend, and maybe catch a NBA game on if they got them on Saturday. I don't know.
yeah, definitely get it out of your system before the bowl games start, because once they start, there's I think 44 of them. So yes,
Whew.
yeah, we're definitely going to be getting into that in future podcasts about maybe some of the best bowl game names, worst bowl game names, maybe even talk about cutting those down. But yes, as for your
The
fights,
Duke Mayo Bowl.
hey, do not. We will be getting into that a little bit later on. But yes, as for the fights, stay tuned. There's going to be fights on just about all day long. with some of the bigger cards, obviously towards the end of the evening on ESPN Plus. Um, Moving on in the WNBA, I know it's really haven't touched on them all that much. They are actually going to increase their schedule from 34 games this season to 36 games next season, uh, which is definitely newsworthy. It's absolutely a great thing for them to keep pushing forward and get more and more games on the schedule, which means
Mhm.
more and more tickets sold, which means more and more money to be generated. So, uh, best of luck for them just to continue moving forward. I don't know. I know a little bit about the NBA's history. I don't know exactly when it went from, yeah, small amount of games on the schedule to like 82. Obviously,
It's team expansion is the or league expansion. I'm sorry, it's really what causes it. Because you kind of hit it right on the head, Clark. They used to play a lot of games back in the day, but it wasn't what it is now. I think the 82. I don't know. Actually, I believe the 82 has been around for like since like the 60s, but prior to that, I think it was a little shorter when they expanded from I believe 10 to I don't know, maybe anywhere between 16 to 20 teams. It had a big expansion, and then the ABA was kind of thrown. The few teams were thrown in there as well.
right.
Yeah. So the league, the WNBA has been expanding, which is really nice. I don't know how many teams they're up to now, but I know there's definitely been a few more over the last 4 or 5 years. I wish they just push it up to 40. I mean, they're playing essentially a college schedule, but the thing that hinders them is they play in the summer. This is the only pro basketball league that plays in the summer.
Understood. It looks like, based on a very quick search, back in the 1947, they played. It's weird. They have 60 and 61. So it looks like about 60 games, and then the following year they played 48. So it was kind of all over the place, but then it went back up to like
Ah,
60, jumped up to 72, and then we got to 82 finally in 1967, 1968
yeah,
season.
yeah. I figured it was the '60s, just because it was a lot of it was only like 10 teams for a while, and then I think you kind of got to the teens, and after that it just exploded.
Correct. So, yeah, hopefully they can continue to add teams. There's going to be obviously still a lot of markets out there. We just talked about in the last podcast of St. Louis
Hmm.
needing a little bit of a basketball team, not just NBA but WNBA as well. And they still have plenty of expansion to
Seattle.
go, a lot of room to actually grow. So hopefully this is the sign of good things to come for the WNBA. Continue. The biggest thing for me, I remember doing a in my master's class doing a, I think this was the one I did my 32-page paper on. It was about losing uh, actual players when it came to a certain age group. So like once you got to age about 10 to 13 years old, there was a huge drop off in youth sports participation. And
Mm.
obviously, when it comes to young female athletes, their priorities change as they get a little bit older. But hopefully, we can get rid of some of the negatives that stop them from playing to continue to play. So hopefully we can continue to generate more WNBA teams as well as just more interest in any women's sports. Period, would be greatly a great thing in general. Um, so congrats to them adding two more games. Hopefully by next year we'll adding two more games. Who knows? But um,
Yeah, push it, push it.
yeah, keep it going. Speaking of uh, schedule and teams, let's jump to the NBA. Fletch, we talked about a little bit off air. Mr. Curry is on the verge of history. I mean, I'm sure the people know what kind of history he's going after,
Oh yeah.
but uh, I mean, he's got a few games to do it yet. But where is he at currently on his quest for the all-time threes record?
Yeah, man. So right now he's obviously second. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about it unless he was there. Um, he is 10 threes behind Ray Allen. I think it is yeah, 10 threes to pass Ray Allen. He'll most likely finish the year with over, yeah, he definitely will finish the year. I'm sorry. don't even know why I said maybe. He'll definitely finish the season with the all time record of over 3,000 threes. Never been done before. Obviously, so that's something that's interesting to be kind of like Tom Brady's the only 600 touchdown man. Steph will be the only 3,000 three pointer. James Harden possibly could join him though. But yeah, man, it's the interesting thing about this, and it was the Blazers Warriors game. Mark Spears was on, and he actually had Dame for a second, talking to him about Portland and everything, which is very interesting. We won't touch into that. He just reiterated he's not leaving. Um, the interesting thing about the schedule though is that Ray Allen coaches his son. I think Florida is where they are. um, Ray Allen had to coach to the game during the game last night, or at the same time as the game last night. Um, there's a game on the schedule, and I believe it's going to be two either I don't know. I believe it's Sunday or Tuesday. One of these days where he will be free. It just might happen where Ray Allen might be in the building when Steph breaks the record. I have a feeling if Steph knows this, he very well may time this up the best he can. Um, I would love to see it. That would just be kind of dope. That'd be a dope scene. I would just love to see, that'd be, two greatest 3-point shooters we've seen. And I mean, by the record. Uh, and I honestly, that's my opinion as well. That'd be very cool to see. So something to look forward to. Check the schedule. I'm double checking right now to see when this is, just so I don't mislead the people. 1 second here.
Yeah, because the craziest thing beyond the fact that Ray Allen could be there to watch it is the simple
Mhm.
fact that Steph Curry has another 500 to 600 games before
Yeah.
just to catch up with his pace. I mean, that's how quickly he's been able to do it, and obviously it helps in this day and age and the way the game is played, where everyone's shooting threes. Um,
Hmm.
but just the way he's been able to do it, especially at times when he is not just double teamed, not just triple teamed, but everybody on him teamed.
Oh yeah, we've
Uh,
seen it.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, they asked a question actually on ESPN on First Take about who's more like Jordan than between Curry and James, and his answer actually was very interesting. I thought Stephen A was going to go off the deep end again like he has been lately. No offense, Big Dog. However, um, it was a very interesting answer. For those at home, might want to check that out. That kind of put things in perspective a little bit for me because I thought he was out of his mind when he first said it. But the explanation was interesting.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I
getting
didn't see it.
oh,
Now
you didn't see it?
I didn't see it,
He
so I'm gonna guess he said Harden.
Nah, it was between LeBron
Oh,
and not
LeBron.
yeah, LeBron James. I'm sorry, LeBron and Steph. It was between LeBron and Steph, who's more like Jordan. Not so much who's better. He acknowledged that LeBron was the second greatest player ever, which is that's extremely respectable. You can have him anywhere personally. I don't care if you put him 1 through 4. Is where I think he should fall. It just depends on how you feel. Um, Nonetheless, he did mention Steph is more like Jordan in the way that what he does on the court and with his scoring ability and how transcendent it is and how unguardable essentially it is, and that's how he translated more to George's game versus somebody more like LeBron. And he kind of turns he's like the engine to a team. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's like that turbo engine behind the team. He's gonna juice whatever team you got. He's gonna juice that team. That's his role more so than just this spectacular scoring ability, which he still has, but that's just not what he's known for. If that makes sense. Um, that was the explanation essentially. So very interesting. Cool debate they had about it. That was one of the good ones that I saw. That wasn't that was opinionated enough to where you really kind of can understand where both sides were coming from. But that one hit home for me because I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, and we will keep an eye on that. I imagine it's gonna happen. If it's gonna happen pretty quickly, with being only 10 away. Um,
Yes,
yeah, it's going to happen this year, and like you said, getting past 3,000 is going to be the easy point. The bigger question is, what number is he going to stop at?
facts.
That's the harder point because again, this day and age, it's all about the threes. He continues to just light up the scoreboard. Uh, who knows? The sky is the limit for him. Speaking of being number one, Purdue men's basketball team for the first time in their program's history, Matt Painter has a number one, at least AP poll team, which again, off air, kind of surprised us both just how good Purdue has been. You would have thought at least 1 week out of any of these great seasons with either Gene Kennedy or Matt Painter, like would have been number one somewhere along
Hmm.
the way. But this is actually the first time in program history they are number one. And again, just like the NFL this year, there's a lot of parity, and we'll be talking about that towards the end of the podcast about just how many teams have a shot to make one of the 14 playoff spots. And when it comes to college basketball, you just when you think there's going to be one team that just going to destroy and take care of business, they get beat by another team that you think is going to continue on, and then they get beat. So
Yep.
we could be looking at quite a bit of parity this year, which is always good because that's just in time for March Madness, which is creeping closer, and is going to be an amazing tournament. If I had to guess, right now we are just at the very tip, the very start. Some teams have, or some conferences actually have conference play already, which is seems a little sudden this early on. Typically, I know Kentucky, for example, doesn't start until after the new year because they always play Louisville December 31st. That's just their tradition to always play them, and then they go into conference play. So there has been a few conference plays already, but again, we'll keep an eye on college basketball. A lot of parity there. Lastly, when it comes to the news and notes for the week, there was a report that came out that Russell Wilson, quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, had stated there would be 3 teams that he said he would waive his no trade clause for. Those 3 teams are, and I'll list them in order of, at least in my opinion, and Fletch, you chime in afterwards as well. Uh, Teams that make sense. We'll go with that. So the first one was the New Orleans Saints. Makes sense. You have probably a Hall of Fame coach down there and a great offense that still needs some receivers, needs some healthy receivers, but they can get those with Michael Thomas next year, and maybe based on a draft prediction that I saw on Yahoo, Jameson Williams out of Alabama could potentially be going to the Saints in the first round of the draft. So you're gonna get some help. Good place to go. Great offense. Amazing defense. Makes sense. The second team of the 3 teams that were listed in this report, I gotta remember. I know the third one. Let me bring it back up here. Should have had this ready to go. Um, what was the other one that wasn't in the Big Apple?
That was not in the Big Apple.
Yeah, trying to pull this back up real quick.
Oh
Um,
man.
there it is. Okay, got it. The other one was Denver. Come on, Fletch. You should have seen
Ah,
that.
look. Yeah. Yeah, that was Denver. Totally forgot. Totally
So
forgot. I just don't think it's
Denver.
gonna happen.
It's true. I mean, Denver again, second team on this list that makes sense. They just
It
signed
does.
2 of their receivers to long extensions. They have a great group of receivers. Noah Fant is a very good tight end if he can ever stay healthy. Makes sense. Good defense, even though they pushed some pieces out. Again, not bad. And then there's the New York Giants. That is the third team listed, and again, that is the worst team of these 3 teams. It doesn't make sense to me. Granted, they're going to have to trade something away. So are they trading draft picks? Are they trading Saquon Barkley? Evan Ingram has proven to us that he is a good blocking tight end. Let's put it that way. Uh,
Yeah.
you got Kenny Galladay who can't stay healthy, but when healthy, we saw in Detroit of all teams that he was really, really good. So there's some bits and pieces there. It just didn't really make sense to me. Fletch, am I off the reservation at this point? What's going on here?
No, I mean the Giants make sense if the Giants can stay healthy. Not only have the receivers been hurt, Saquon Barkley's been hurt. their whole team is like all the skill players are made of glass. Honestly, very talented at those positions. You have Saquon Barkley with Devontae Booker, who backs him up, who did. I mean, he's not great or anything, but he definitely held his own. And then you have Kadarius Toney, fresh out the draft, who looks good when he can get the ball. You have Sterling Shepard, who looks good when he can stay on the field. You have, like you mentioned, Kenny Galladay looks good if he can stay on the field. Everett Ingram has the tools, but he can't catch. So, I mean, you might have to switch out tight end, but like, there's four guys right there that have honestly big playability, very good possession receiver. Um, with Shepard, you got a guy in Tony who's an athlete. I mean, they have pieces. They have pieces. They're all hurt though, all the time, all the time. And then the offensive line clearly can't keep Danny Jones, healthy. So I'm with you, Clark. It's a terrible spot, but it's a great spot if it was a freaking video game.
Agreed. And like you said, there's bits and pieces there. The other problem is the coach is not great. I know he's a new
Right.
coach, but I don't think he's going to last there at the end of this year, if not the end of next year, if he's lucky. And then the GM that they've been calling for his firing for quite some time.
Hmm.
So maybe, just maybe, if they get a new GM, if they get a new head coach, maybe it makes sense to go in there and see what you can do and build around him. But if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm trying to get down to New Orleans or over to Denver, somewhere else that can block for me and then also have the pieces. Because, I mean, imagine having Russell Wilson combined with either Michael Thomas or Alvin Kamara and that Saints great defense. It would vault the Saints back into playoff contention. It
That's
would,
the best fit.
yeah. I mean, I understand that the Giants and any quarterback at this point is an upgrade over Daniel Jones. I get that, but again, now the problem is this report came out yesterday. Another report came out today where Russell Wilson said, "Hey, that report is not correct." So at this point, we really don't know what's going on. Obviously, Seahawks, and he continued to play for the Seahawks, but this is not the first time that he's mentioned wanting to leave Seattle. We talked. I mean, this was off season where he was wanting to leave because the offensive line was bad and he was constantly getting sacked over and over again. So we will continue to monitor this situation. I guarantee you this won't be the last time we talked about Russell Wilson wanting to be traded away. But if that report is true, those three teams at least have the upper edge or the upper luck, I guess you could say, in order to get him on the team.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
so we'll keep an eye on that. That is it for news and notes this week. Again, another light week. Let us go ahead and jump into a little bit of a mini debate topic this week, and it really has to evolve around college football and the coaching. And the at least for my mind, and I'll speak my mind, and then Fletch, I want you to chime in your opinion as well. When it comes to college football, there's a timing to it. I think we've mentioned this on a previous podcast, but the last 2 weeks are the two biggest recruiting weeks when it comes to college football, which again, for the casual fan is going to look at that and think it's insane to have your recruiting in the dead center or the very tail end of your season, but unfortunately that is the case. That being said, you're going to see a lot of coaching changes happen during those 2 weeks because if you're going to change a coach, that coach A needs to be hired right away, and then B has to get right on the recruiting trail ASAP so they don't fall behind. So we saw the likes of Brian Kelly going down to LSU and Lincoln Riley going to USC and Brent Venables going from Clemson to Oklahoma and even Clemson's AD moving down to Miami with Mario Cristobal coming from Oregon down to Miami. But again, all these coaching changes happening very quickly, and unfortunately for the likes of Notre Dame, that was still in a chance to potentially make the playoffs, sitting at number 5, depending on if chaos was going to happen that didn't quite get there. They could have been in the playoffs with Marcus Freeman as their next man up type scenario, who is now going to be the head coach there. To me, I don't like. the timing of the recruiting. I really don't. These kids fought for these coaches. These coaches preached year in and week out. You have to fight and you have to continue to push and you have to push for the playoffs. And even when you get to the bowl game, you have to push and make things look good and make these promises to these kids, and then you just jump ship when money gets waved in your face. You just move on, and especially right before the big bowl game, which is huge for some programs because if you win that game, you add some excitement heading into next season. But most of the time, it's just like this year. Brent Venables, I don't think he's going to be the head coach for the bowl game for Oklahoma. I think it's actually going to be Bob Stoops, if I'm not mistaken, unless they change that. But, I mean, what are these recruits looking at? You're looking at a coach that may not even be there next year. I know Barry Alvarez did it last year for Wisconsin, or a couple years ago for Wisconsin. It's been a few years, but for me, I just don't like the timing of the recruiting these 2 weeks. Why not wait until after all the bowl games are played? And if you know what, if that means we have less than 44 bowl games, so be it. If you've looked at any one of those bowl games this year, you have seen I think two or three of them have sub 500 teams playing in bowl games. Stop it. Stop it. Like, allow these kids to finish the season with these coaches, and then at the end of that, if the coaches want to leave and have the recruiting going, go for it. I'm totally fine with that. But that's my 2 cents. Fletch, what is your thought on this whole coaching thing and the timing of the recruiting and everything else?
Um, it's I'm gonna be yeah. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's essentially the nature of the beast, and I've been on. People that know me, um, I say all the time, I hate college football. Reason why I say that, I don't hate the actual like game. I hate the structure. This is literally a cause and effect. This is the effect. I personally, I can't blame the effect. So how I feel personally about the coaches leaving is the same way I feel about players not playing in bowl games. I personally like for me, like for instance, as an Ohio State fan, even I'm competitive to the point where I may not even watch the bowl game. It's not a championship. To me, it's meaningless. We talk about bowl games all the time, and I'll tell you day in and day out. There's way too many. It's a participation trophy for most of these teams. I don't mind them so much because they are college kids, but at the same time, college is not so much the amateur sport that you and I grew up on. It's a business now, especially with the NIL stuff going on. So there's, and I think that's why I think we it may be a less people may be less more empathetic as well. Um, because just because of the NIL stuff, they know the players now they have essentially. I hate to say this, but I do believe it. They have freedom now because I didn't think they essentially had that much freedom before. So I think I don't know, man. To me, it's more so an effect, and I more so blame the cause, which is the structure of college football. Essentially, has caused this.
Agreed. Totally 100%. It is definitely a business. I have seen uh, publicly when I did my master's course when I had to take a look at I don't know the exact terminology, but basically your I guess you could say budget. There's another term for it, but basically it lays out all of the university's monies. And when there's ever a college football team, especially for a higher university, publicly traded or a public university, the difference between money when it comes to football and basketball, insane.
Hmm.
Literally insane the amount of money that comes from football. It is truly the budget for the entire university where they have it. There's a reason why the smaller schools go play the bigger schools and get paid $2 million to go do it. It's because that's their budget for the entire year. which unfortunately, if we continue to push the way we do, we may see less and less of that, which is unfortunate. Some of these smaller schools are going to have to make some very difficult decisions down the road. But as for the topic on hand, yes, the structure of it needs to change. If you're going to be a coach, you're going to be signed in for the entire year, including the bowl game. Now, granted, I didn't look at the bowl names this year. I'll quickly go over two of them that actually just three of them that infuriate me right now. And as you were speaking, I was looking through them. So, Frisco, you know that brand? Like Frisco, I think it's like cooking oil, I think.
Oh,
Uh,
they have a bowl game?
so there's not only just the Frisco Bowl, okay? Just the Frisco Bowl, but then there's also the Frisco Football Classic. Huh?
They
Yeah.
have two bowl games?
They have two. Yes. They have two bowl games this year. I've never seen that before. I'm not gonna lie. Wow. Talk about getting your money and your money's worth. One is
Oh
between
my gosh.
UTSA, which is 12-1, versus San Diego State 11-2. So that one's an actual good bowl game. I'm fine with that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The next one, the Frisco Football Classic, is between North Texas and Miami of Ohio. That are both 6-6.
Can do without it. That's the.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about. This is the. I why, why, why are they playing, Clark?
I mean, I'd rather have the two 6-6 teams than Hawaii hosting the Hawaii Bowl, and they're 6-7. I mean, at least Memphis gets to go out to Hawaii and enjoy a weekend.
This
I
is
mean,
terrible. This is what I'm talking. This is why I say I hate college football.
then the I think literally the best bowl name of the year. I know you're partial to your Mayo Bowl, and that's
Hmm
fine. Duke paid a lot of money to get that done.
They did.
This one is between 6-6 West Virginia versus 8-4 Minnesota. It is, I will state it as is, guaranteed rate bowl. That's it.
Nah.
Guaranteed rate bowl. Let's go watch the guaranteed rate bowl.
What you
Come
watching, bro?
on.
Hold on. What you watching, bro?
I was kind of partial back in the day to the San Diego Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. That was the best one. They don't have that anymore,
Lord.
unfortunately, but that was the best one. The San Diego Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. Yeah.
Lord, you can see.
Uh,
Hey, check this one out. Check this one out. The Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl.
yes. I've seen that last year. And then I think one that was new, it has to be new this year because I don't remember seeing it last year, was the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
Yes, it is new.
Jimmy,
The-
why? Stop
Yeah.
it. Stop it. You don't need more money. Stop naming bowls. This isn't freaking Longenberger. You don't make a bowl and people buy it. This is just a bowl game.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts.
But
Which one is that? Who's playing in this Jimmy Kimmel Bowl?
that is 10-3 Utah State versus 7-5 Oregon State. Just so bad. This is so bad. Stop it. Stop
This
it.
is, yeah.
Let's just keep with the big name bowls. If you want to continue with the Duke's Mayo Bowl, I'm fine with that. Music City Bowl is always a good one. I enjoy that one. Uh, Gator Bowl's up there. There's the Cotton Bowl, obviously the one of the biggest ones. The Outback Bowl was always Big Ten versus SEC.
Yeah.
Bring the tradition back. I like the tradition. But granted, if we're going to expand the playoffs, which I'm in favor of, a lot of these bowl matchups, the traditions are going to continue to get pushed to the side. So as long as we don't replace them with the guaranteed rate bowl, I'm fine with that. Or
I,
what other major celebrity wants to have a bowl named after them?
right. I've never hated the upper tier bowls though. I will say that. Like I still think they're participation trophies to a degree. I will keep saying that. I don't care. But I do like those upper tier bowls, the Peach Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Rose
Mm-hmm.
Bowl, Sugar Bowl.
Yes.
I mean, technically not the Cotton Bowl, but the Cotton Bowl game was always good. Um, yeah, man. Those were the ones you remembered. I remember Boise State beating Oklahoma. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
those were very, very memorable games. I like those, and it gave the kids something to play for too. I mean, like personally, if I know how high I'm going in the draft, if I play on Virginia Tech or Maryland, why am I 6-6 against each other playing in the damn Pinstripe Bowl
Right, and a
at
lot
two
of those
o'clock?
exactly, and we're already seeing even some of the major ones having players leaving and not
Yeah.
playing in those games. I know defensive end out of Oregon's not playing in the bowl game for Oregon.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
again, the original conversation we had about college football coaching, yes, the structure is bad, and we compounded that with more structure with all these terrible bowl games that don't need to be played. If you, I don't know, it's so bad. It's just if you want to
It's
have a,
unexplainable, huh?
yeah, it's if you want to
Other
have,
than money.
I mean that's all it is. It's all it is money. And there's a reason why they haven't expanded the playoffs at this point because of those major bowls that you mentioned, the Fiesta and the Cotton and the Orange and the Rose. They want their money. They want their TV time. And if you're going to expand the playoffs, two of those games are going to lose their traditional teams that they typically go get. Um, so they have to be worked in. They can be worked in, but the tradition has to go by the wayside, unfortunately. But over
Or
the
use smaller
years,
bowls.
yeah, it's they can be the final four, but again, it's just not going to be traditional there.
Yeah,
Um, as much as we would like to continue for the next hour demolishing the bowls,
we probably could.
we could. Yes, you're not wrong. I'm going to close that window before I get more angered than I already am. And let us move on to our pick six of this week. Fletch, I will say this. Me only getting three last week, you only getting two last week. That was slightly depressing.
Dismal.
Pretty bad. We had a couple of our friends from our fantasy league actually get 5 out of 6, so congrats to them. They
Whatever.
had the foresight that we did not. Hopefully this week we can switch places with them and actually get more than half. Would be nice. But again, like I said, at the end of the year, my picks go right down the tube because I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's just the Christmas spirit. If I get rid of that, maybe I'll pick better. I don't know. But let's jump into the pick six game number one. The Jacksonville Jaguars going on the road to the Tennessee Titans in a battle of the AFC South. You have Tennessee that is basically without just about every single major offensive weapon that they have. No Derrick Henry, which is rumored to potentially back as early as next week. I highly doubt that, but at least it's been rumored at this point. AJ Brown is still out. Julio Jones could be back here soon. But they're playing a Jacksonville Jaguars that actually has been playing teams tough. Very similar esque to what Detroit has been doing most of the year when they finally got their win last week. But usually playing a lot of teams just tough, not really getting the win, but playing them tough at this point. This one is a difficult game to play or difficult game to actually pick because I could easily see Jacksonville winning this game as well as I can easily see Tennessee winning this game. Uh, I'm gonna just for the fact that there's really no offense there in Tennessee, I'm gonna pick the upset. I've got Jacksonville winning this game. Fletch, who do you got?
Interesting pick. I'm not mad at it. I thought about this one a little bit. Same reasons you did. You mentioned. The office is just not there. I mean, what are you gonna do? I personally, I can't. I don't know if I could pull. If I could keep, put my money on the Jags. I'm gonna go with the Titans on this one. I think they pull this one off. I think it'd actually be close though. I guess I just trust Tannehill to make sure that they do win this game. This is a very important game. All the other divisional leaders right now are 8-4, and then the Pats are 9-4. So they lose this game, they essentially drop the fourth automatically, at least on paper. So they do need to win this game, and hopefully they get some guns back soon.
Yes, and we'll be talking about just how important that is after we do our top 10, just of how close all these teams are, the parity that we have in the NFL this year. But we'll be getting to that towards the end of this podcast. For right now, we've got a second game to pick. It is the Dallas Cowboys going on the road to the Washington football team. Uh, Washington plays teams close and they win close games. They're not really blowing anybody out, but they're going to stick with you. They're going to play tough. And funny enough, their defense is actually was improving a little bit before the Chase Young and I think the other injury as well. But once Chase Young left, they actually played a little bit better defensively, which is not good for his second contract. But as for the Washington football team, they're playing tough on the defensive side of the football. As for the Dallas Cowboys, uh, I don't know what to say about them. They have the names on the offensive side of the football that just makes you want to be really excited. And then you see their on the field play and it's like they don't realize that they're that as good as they should be. They really struggle. I don't know if they're playing down to their opponents or they just really struggling this year. But at the end of the day, I don't know. This one, I could see this one really going either way. I'm going to go the Washington football team. Home field advantage. They get the win. Fletch, who do you got?
Hmm. Good points about Dallas. I think the thing with Dallas, to answer that question, I don't know if it was rhetorical or not. I do think that they are struggling. I don't think they're playing down. I just think they're struggling. I think they're in a slump, very similar to the Bills. They're in a slump. Um, I think that there's something with the offense that was clicking earlier in the season that does click at times. That just right now it's not clicking. I don't know if that's timing. Not 100% sure when this started, but there was like a switch that went off at some point. I feel like it was a loss to Denver. Ever since then, it has not been quite right. This also could be. This is something I don't know if I mentioned it on the show a lot, but I know I mentioned it in general. Is the more film that there is that the more teams know how to beat you, or at least know how to slow you down. There's a lot of film out there on the Cowboys. They've had these guys for some quite some time now. Um, and they've been and people know Mike McCarthy as well. He's been in the league for a very long time. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be winning. They still are 8-4. But at the same time, they just haven't been playing well. They just been the wins they have, they kind of gotten by. That leads me to say this. Mike McCarthy guaranteed that they were going to win. I heard last week that they were just frustrated with the way they've been playing, and they actually played pretty decent against the Saints. Um, I'm going to pick them to win this game. I think they pull this one off as well. I think they know the importance of it, and we're gonna roll with the Cowboys on this. I think that's why he essentially guaranteed the win.
Yeah, and he's actually coming back off. Was this his first game coming back from COVID? He didn't coach last week, did he?
McCarthy, I believe so. That's right.
Okay, so yeah, it's interesting. I did see that he did guarantee this game, so we'll see if that Joe Namath magic can work for a coach there in Dallas. Speaking of the Buffalo Bills, they'll be going to Tampa Bay, a little bit warmer climate than what they had to deal with in Buffalo this past weekend. They'll be facing the Buccaneers. Buccaneers, again, a team much like Dallas, loaded with talent, but playing much better football than Dallas at this point, even though their defense has struggled at times, but luckily they still have the ageless wonder of Tom Brady that continues to push to an MVP season. I don't really see too many other names at this point jumping in his way as long as he continues his ways. As for Buffalo, they're coming off of a loss. Is one of those teams that continues its downward spiral a little bit. I will give them a break from last week. Last week's 50-mile-an-hour wind gust and seeing their kicker try to kick into the wind pregame, and the wind said, "No, no, no, not tonight." Pushing it backwards. I saw, I think, an 8-yard punt in that game because of the wind. Uh, it was
Just brutal.
it was nasty. Exactly. Yes, very brutal of a game. So I'll give them a pass. But again, they've been downward spiraling for weeks now. I don't think that stops this week against Tampa Bay. Definitely not a team that you can really do it easily against. So I've got Tampa Bay winning this one at home. Fletch, who do you got?
Um, I'm with you. I'm with you on this one all day. What it is with the Bucks right, or the gosh, with the Bills right now, I apologize, is essentially they can't stop the run this year. I mean, they every team that I'm looking at on their schedule, and I mean, I'm guaranteeing we can look at the numbers and take a look at it. I mean, it's something about the run this year they can't really handle. This is the reason I won't give them a pass for last week is because the Patriots ran the ball every play but three. If you know they're going to run the ball, how did you let them continue to drive down the field on you? Every drive was lengthy. Every drive ended in some type of positive result, whether it was a score or field position. Um, it was a bit. I wouldn't say ridiculous. If they make their field goals, I think they win. But it's the reason why the Patriots only scored touchdowns and not field goals as well. So I don't know. And for that reason, the way Leonard Fournette's been playing, I'm going with the Bucks.
Agreed. He has been on a tear this year, especially once he actually got full reps of or full touches each and every single game over Ronald Jones. Moving on to game number 4, we have the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Cincinnati. If I would have known this game was being played, I still wouldn't have gone because it's going to be cold. Uh, and the last two games I went to when San Francisco did come to Cincinnati to play, they were both very cold and very miserable. Unfortunately, they just never seem to play early on in the season, which would be great because I want to see my Niners play. But unfortunately, I won't be going to this game. This game himself, I picked San Francisco last week and they let me down. I think I've picked them every single game, usually, and they've always let me down. As for Cincinnati, their offense is good. T. Higgins got a little bit of an ankle injury, but he got limited reps today. Joe Mixon was banged up a little bit last week as well, but I haven't heard any news negatively against that, so I don't think he's going to have any issues coming into this game. Cincinnati is on fire. They will continue to win, and I see them winning this game against my Niners, which hopefully that's the opposite, but we'll have the Cincinnati Bengals winning this game. Fletch, who's your choice?
Yeah, I like this game. It's a big game, in my opinion. I think it's not a must win game, but it's a you want to win this one. This is what I'm not saying you don't want to win the other ones, but you really want to win this one. You lose this game, you essentially don't control your own destiny to a degree. You're going to slip a little bit. I know there's some time left, man, but it's a cluster. We talked about that, the parity in sport. We talked about it in college, and it's the same thing in the league right now. It's it's a lot of parity, man, and you don't want to get too far behind the eight ball. They're both in really good spots. Um, I do think the Bengals at this point are just a slightly better football team. For that reason, I will pick them. I just think they check a few more boxes, and I think they'll get this one done. And the 8-5 Eagles team is a little dangerous with that offense that you mentioned.
Yeah, agreed. And let's go to game number 5. The Falcons going on the road to face a division rival, the Carolina Panthers. Panthers news worthy. They just lost their offensive coordinator. He was fired, Joe Brady. Uh, he is gone, and actually there was a article, I didn't read it, but I saw the title saying that Cam Newton was apologizing for being a part of that firing. I have to dig a little bit more into that, but again, still without CMC, he's done for the entire year. The Falcons having Cordero Patterson continue to move forward with that offense. This one's tough because both these teams kind of pushing for it, still have some of a chance, but Carolina doesn't have a quarterback. The Falcons have a little bit better offense. I'm going to go Falcons on this one. And honestly, it's just because Cordero Patterson is balling out this season. That's really my only reason. Fletch, who do you got?
Oh man, I got the Falcons, man. The Panthers are a dumpster fire right now. It's bad. I'm just gonna say that it's bad. That's the reason for me laughing. I'm sorry. It's not good, man. And I feel bad though because I really like their team this year. And then CMC got hurt, and then all of a sudden what's his name? Sam Darnold, first 4 games, hey, looking all right, might be okay. And then all of a sudden the wheels came off, and it's like, well, I guess the Jets were not lying. I don't know, man. It's bad, bro. I'm going with the Falcons though. The Falcons are actually a decent football team. They just don't have a lot of talent right now, and they don't play good defense. But I got the Falcons.
Yeah, and they're still waiting to see if Calvin Ridley's going to decide if he's going to play maybe towards the end of this year or
It'd
not.
be nice.
Yes, it would be nice, and I know for you, fantasy-wise, it would be very nice if he could get in there, especially for playoff time. But we'll continue to wait on that. Last pick six game of this week, we have the Rams going to the Arizona Cardinals on Monday night, an NFC West showdown, a big showdown for the NFC. We have the Rams that's, again, kind of been reeling of late. They have the pieces there, they just haven't really been able to put them completely together. Maybe another game underneath Odell Beckham Jr.'s belt. He's gotten a couple touchdowns. He just hasn't really fully been, I guess, fully integrated into the offense. Not quite yet, but I think he should this week. But they are battling a very difficult team that's coming off of a bye. Not a bye. They played Chicago last week in Arizona, who their passing defense is one of the better ones in the league. And Kyler Murray looked kind of like Kyler Murray last week. Shocking.
Yeah.
He actually ran for some yardage last week and ran for 2 touchdowns. Haven't seen that since, I think, week 2 from this year. So I've got Arizona winning this one at home. They're playing great football. The Rams kind of stumbling their way into the playoffs at this point. Fletch, who do you got?
Yeah, this is a tough one. This is a big game. I'll say this, I mean, if they can, if the Cardinals can win this game, that's gonna mean a lot for them moving forward. That puts them at 11-2 with the chokehold on the division. Um, and possibly the number one seed. So we'll see how this game goes. Personally, I like the matchup. It is in Arizona. It's Monday Night Football. Are Peyton and Eli gonna be on?
I believe so.
Oh yes. Oh yes. This is what we needed. Um, I don't know, man. My head is telling me to pick the Cardinals. I'm going with the Rams. Going with the Rams. It's not a lot to be said. These are two really good teams. There's a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. I'm just going with the Rams. I think they pull this off.
Yeah, they definitely have the talent to win this game. Now, there was a small little note today that Cooper Kupp's got a little bit of an injured toe at this moment. It doesn't sound like anything that's actually going to hold him out of the game, but we'll keep an eye on it as the week progresses. But that is our pick six for this week.
Hey Clark,
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned Cooper Cup. Quickly, I have a fun fact for you that I did some digging. I was just interested because man, I've been telling you he's my MVP. I don't care. Maybe not anymore. At one point he was though. However, one thing that I wanted to just mention about Cooper Cup this year, and this is kind of crazy, and this is why I want to mention it. We talked about Steph Curry and records and everything. Um, however, Cooper Cup. Let me find this here. Is he still number one in fantasy?
For receivers, yes.
Gotcha. Oh, here it is. 2021. There we go. All right. Where's my guy at? Where's my guy?
Yeah, he's currently in full point PPR. He's actually 5 points behind Jonathan Taylor at this point.
For the most overall.
But he's got 100 receptions already this year, 1,366 yards receiving and 11 touchdowns.
Yeah. This is what I want to. This is exactly what I want to point out here. He has. This is how good Cooper Cup has been. He has 9 more targets than any other receiver. He has 14 more catches than any other receiver. His catch rate is 73.5, which is only exceeded by with a certain catch limit, only exceeded by two wide receivers, and the rest are running backs, which is extremely obvious, and I think a tight end. He has the most yards by over 150. and then also he has the most touchdowns, receiving touchdowns as well. Yards per game, there's only two people at 100, over 100. Justin Jefferson is right at 100, and he's at 113, 114. It's 113.8. Cooper Kupp has been on a freaking tear this year. I'm curious to see where he finishes. Um, it seems like I mean, the extra game helps, but he might even break that reception record. He has a chance to do that. I mean, he's well in front of everybody else. So we'll see, man. I just want to throw that out there just because of how far ahead he is from everyone.
Yeah, he's been absolutely amazing. Definitely a fantasy football MVP this year, right along with Jonathan Taylor in the running back position, as well as Tom Brady, the ageless wonder at the quarterback position. Uh, yeah, definitely been amazing this year, to say the least. But let's go ahead and move into our top 10 teams of the NFL rankings. Each week we give out our top 10. We go through them and we figure out just how badly these teams are, or how much parity there is, just because some of these teams just kind of hard to move because they continue to be either pretty darn good or just kind of lackluster along with everybody else. But I will start things off with my 10, 9, and 8. At number 10, I still have the Bengals. They haven't really moved much. There hasn't really been too much room to move up. But again, they have the ability to move up because of the weapons that they have. Joe Mixon's having an amazing year along with Jamar Chase's rookie year, T. Higgins' year as well, along with Joe Burrow. I can't imagine how good they're going to look next year with more time and more reps. But as for now, they are my number 10 team. At number 9, I have the Buffalo Bills. I think falling out of my top 5 or top 6 for the first time in quite some time. They just continue to look bad. And I think to the point, like you mentioned, they just can't stop the run, which is good for me fantasy wise this week because I do have Leonard Fournette. But as for my rankings, I got to put them at 9. They still have the pieces there to win, even though they are missing a few on the defensive side of the football. But offensively speaking, Josh Allen can play just as good as anybody else in this league. We've seen it before. He can do it again. So I'll leave them at 9. And then at number 8, I have the Ravens. Just falling a little bit back, just one spot back from last week. Uh, this offense has been been abysmal for quite some time now. The problem is obviously they've been struggling to run the football, but that's due to large injuries. They have Devonta Freeman leading the way, which is never a good thing. And the passing game just really hasn't been there. Lamar has not been as accurate as what we saw earlier in the season. But at number 8 right now is where I like to have them. Fletch, who is your 10, 9, and 8?
Yes, sir. My 10 this week is actually the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers put a beating on the Bengals, at least in the first quarter, and after that, just kind of swap points a little bit. But they look really good though. They put up 41 against that Cincinnati team in Cincinnati, mind you. So I do have them actually. My Bengals were my number 10 last week. I got to swap them out for the Chargers this week. Sitting at 7-5 there, top wild card spot in the AFC currently. So we'll see how they pan out the rest of the season. But I do have them here at 10. I have my number 9, the same as yours. Got the Buffalo Bills, man. They're just reeling and backpedaling out of my top 10 almost, man. So we'll see what happens, man, moving forward. But and they got a tough game against Tampa Bay, man. They're struggling. They're struggling, man. I don't know what to say. Are they 7-5 right now? Yeah, 7-5.
Mm-hmm.
Last spot in the playoffs. They lose this game. I mean, the Steelers could take it. The Colts are on a bye. They could. They're already 7-6. They could take it. The Raiders. I mean, the Browns are sitting there. Hell, the Broncos are sitting there, and they got the easiest team of them all this week with the Lions. So they're not doing they're not doing themselves any favors right now, man. But I got them here at 9, and then at number 8, I didn't have him in my top 10 last week. I've been debating on how good this team really is. We talked about them a little bit, and I just feel like again the pieces are there. They're just in a slump, and unlike the Bills, they're still winning enough games. I'm going with the Cowboys here at number 8.
Okay. And yeah, that's where I had the Cowboys last week was my number 8. But as for my number 7 and number 6, for number 7, I had the Chiefs finally coming back into the top 10. Week a
Yes.
little bit later, I just had to see it for myself. They have the number 4 spot. They have the division lead. Patrick Mahomes and company still isn't quite firing on all cylinders. We haven't really seen that yet, but they have it there. They have the pieces. They still have Mahomes and Hill and Kelsey, and everything's still there. So when it happens, watch out because this team could easily lock themselves into one of the first two picks or one of the first two spots for the playoffs. So I have them sitting at number 7. At number 6, my same team as last week, the Tennessee Titans sitting there. You can make an argument that maybe the Chiefs might pass them uh, this week, and they might. Who knows? We'll see what happens between the Titans and the Jags. But for right now, I'll keep the Titans there. Still missing a lot of pieces, especially if King Henry comes back. Who knows what will happen with this Titans team? But I like them sitting at number 6. Fletch, who is your team 7 and 6?
Well, that's interesting, man. One thing I want to mention, I slid the Titans out somehow. I slid the Titans out, and I'm okay with it.
I'm fine with that as well. I mean, there's so much parity this year, even though they are the second seed in the playoffs. If it happened right here, right now,
Right.
they are just as quickly out of the playoffs with a loss or two. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's just they're unimpressive for a little while now, and it's just I think almost win or lose almost sometimes. I feel like I'm sliding them back. So I mean, we'll see. I was big on the Titans. I feel like I had them number one week if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
Or no, I'm sorry, number two. I had them number two. Like I can't remember the date on this is the 10th. So a month ago I had them number two. Um, nonetheless, we get into my six and my five. My six, I have the rate. No, I'm sorry. We're 7 and 6, aren't we?
Hmm.
Okay, 7 and 6. I have seven as the Ravens. I do have them sliding down a couple spots here. I think last week I had them like fifth. Tough loss to the Steelers. I just think they should have kicked the field goal going to overtime. I just think they're the better football team. Normally, a better football team wins in overtime. That's how I would have played it. And that's the confidence I would have put in my team. Um, Essentially, Harbaugh put his confidence in his quarterback, which I'm totally okay with. He's done it before. He just came up short. Easily could have won that game, I believe. Also, shout out to Ben Roethlisberger for helping me get into my playoffs, man. I thank you so much. I thank you so much. I'm on record being a Big Ben hater, by the way, and I put my money on Taysom Hill in like two leagues, and I wasn't gonna do it in the third. I didn't feel that I didn't know, man. I don't know. I felt pretty ballsy about him putting him in our league, and I started him, and it panned out with that crazy 5 yard slant that turned into a touchdown in garbage time. I mean, hey, man, the fantasy guys looked out for me. But yeah, man, that was a tough loss. So I still have them here at 7. I didn't want to slide them back too far. And then moving on here at my number 6, I have the Rams. They look pretty good. I got them moving up a little bit from last week. They got a super tough matchup this week with, I believe, is one of the best teams in the league, and I think everybody would agree. So, curious to see. I don't even if they lose, I don't even know if I slide them. That's my little precursor for next week because this is one of those matchups, man, where I mean you got two Titans essentially going at it, and no pun intended. It's gonna be a good game, I think. So that's my six, man, and I'll kick it to you.
So at my number 5, the same team I had last week was the LA Rams. Just sitting right there
Nice.
again. They could be pushed a little bit further back, but the talent that they have, it's kind of hard to argue pushing them back behind some of these other teams like the Titans that are struggling, just don't have anybody healthy. The Chiefs are on the verge. I think that might be the next team that jumps them, but for right now, like them at number 5. At number 4 for me is where the Patriots jump into play. I had them at number 9 last week, and a very impressive win against the Bills. And like you mentioned, everybody knows what you're doing when it's 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. You're going to run the football, and they ran the football so well in that game. Uh, so congratulations to them. Bill Belichick again continuing to have Coach of the Year written all over this season. I
Oh,
have
big
them at
time.
number 4, and I'll go ahead. My last three My 1, 2, and 3 are the exact same as last week. Cardinals at number 1, the Packers at number 2, and the Buccaneers at number 3. No changes. I don't really see any change this week. We'll see what happens. Obviously, the Cardinals face the Rams this week, so that could potentially change things. The Buccaneers play the Buffalo Bills, so things could change. But I like them staying 1, 2, and 3 for me. Fletch, finish off your list for us.
Top five, top five, top five. Last week I had the Packers at one. I got the Packers at one. Last week I had the Cards at two. I got the Cards at two. Last week I had the Bucks at three. I got the Bucks at three. Last week I had the Pats at four. The Patriots. I got them at four. This week I got the Kansas City Chiefs back in the top five, baby. I think they're here, man. And I think you kind of said it. They're not quite there, but when they're there, they're top three. When they're not quite there, I think this is where they are. Especially, and this is, and honestly, my top six would have been exactly the same as last week had the Ravens essentially just won their game. Um, that's part of the. This, again, we talked about it earlier, cause and effect. That's all
Right.
that was. So, yeah, man, I do like the Chiefs. I think they are back. I think they're playing good football. Honestly, with the Browns Ravens AFC matchup, a banged up Titans team against the Jags, and say the Chiefs beat the Raiders. Chiefs literally become your number. Oh wow, actually tied for first in the AFC at 9-4 with the Pats, who are on bye. Just
Yep.
like that, here we are, and I believe this was the title game matchup. Um, 2 years ago,
I believe so. Was
Pats Chiefs,
Yeah,
or three,
it was
three maybe,
two.
two or three.
Uh, might have been 2 years ago. I know it was Chiefs Bills last year.
Okay, so that was probably 2 years ago then. Yep, that makes sense. Brady's last year there, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So here we are with Mac Jones, and could he the same? We'll see. Also, really quick, Clark, before we hop into a quick little couple questions we got for you. Did you know currently the odds of the Super Bowl are Pats Bucks? That's the top odds right now.
They have been pushing for that. I think mainstream media has been pushing for that, and a lot of different
Absolutely.
analysts have been pushing for that as well. I get it. I understand why they want it. Maybe that's the reason why I don't want it. But uh, yeah, it's been heavily pushed to get the Patriots and Bill Belichick versus the Buccaneers and Tom Brady pushed for the Super Bowl. That's what they've been pushing for, and
I'm here for it.
things happen for a reason. So I would not be shocked at any one stretch of the imagination if it works out that way.
Hey, like I said, I'm here for it. Let's get a man in the arena too next year.
Uh,
Oh man. However, man, I just had to throw that out there. What I wanted to hit you with this was this though, and I give you mine as well. I there are, and I'm gonna put the line at 7.5. I'm gonna mention all the teams that have more than 7.5 wins, and we're gonna go ahead and give our teams that we believe will not or has the least chance of making the playoffs. These nine teams are the Cardinals, the Packers, the Bucks, the Cowboys, and the Rams, all in the AFC or NFC. I'm sorry. And the AFC, you have the Pats, the Titans, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. Out of these teams, which do you see possibly or is least likely to make the playoffs?
it's for me. It's the Ravens. I know they're a good football team and they can play well. The problem is that defensively, their linebackers are slow this year. They have struggled on the defensive side of the football, and then offensively, like we've mentioned before, you got Devonta Freeman leading the running back group. They have struggled with the run game this year. Lamar Jackson continues to have bad passing work. They haven't really been passing well since the first half of the season when Hollywood Brown was actually lighting it up. If they can get back to that, passing the ball well, getting Mark Andrews more involved, and Hollywood Brown, and getting the defense to play well enough, they could potentially squeak in because the Browns continue to falter. But the Bengals are moving their way up. They're right there. That would be the one team that I'm seeing amongst this group. You could make an argument for maybe the Cowboys, but the problem is the rest of their division is not good. So they're going to be in one of those top four spots just probably by default. Um, and then beyond that, it's kind of hard to see except for before maybe if you saw maybe like the Seahawks doing well, you could have an argument of maybe the Rams faltering because they're not playing very well. But for this very moment, easy for me, it's the Ravens. They're just so banged up, and if they don't continue to push forward, I could see them easily being pushed out. Fletch, of those same teams, who do you seeing falling out of the playoffs?
um, that's gonna be my second pick. My first pick is gonna be the Titans, actually. Um, the Titans, they are in a very similar position as the Ravens. Now, I understand Henry very well may come back, um, and that may help them. However, just looking, I mean, just checking out everything this week, essentially, if the fifth and the sixth seed this week win, which is the Chargers and the Bengals, Titans lose, Ravens win, and you got to think, the Colts are on bye at 7-6. You're one game in front of the Colts at this point, and the Colts, they've been playing good football. They've actually been playing pretty decent football on the defensive side all season long. They're not on the field all game. Um, so I think that's my team. I don't know when either of those receivers are coming back, or if they are. I don't think I just don't know if we see Julio at all this year. I don't know when AJ Brown comes back because he's on IR. I don't. I know he has like I think 1 or 2 weeks left, but still, I mean, he's missed quite a bit of time already to start the season. I just not. I don't trust the injuries, man, and I think I just put a little bit more faith in Lamar than I do Ryan Tannehill at this point. And I feel like the Ravens are somewhat fixable because the running game wasn't necessarily predicated on like a J.K. Dobbins specifically. It was more so predicated on the threat of Lamar Jackson, and I think they need to figure out what they can do to fix that part, and then also to get the passing game back how I was going about a month ago. But I think that's solvable.
Yeah, they still have the pieces there, whereas, like you mentioned with the Titans, they're waiting on people to come back in order to actually fix their team a little bit. So, yeah, I think those two definitely would be up there as well, especially with the Titans. But if they can get Derrick Henry back and get A.J. Brown back, uh, they could potentially hold on just because the Colts kind of been up and down this year, and I highly doubt the Jaguars are going to push for contention as well. So we'll see how it plays out. Now, Fletch, let me ask you this. I think you still have the NFL.com playoff picture pulled up at this point.
I do.
Um, I need you to look at teams that are on the bubble, teams that are not currently listed to be in the playoffs at this very moment. Of the teams that are on the bubble, outside the picture, which team from each conference has the best chance to find their way into the playoffs?
This is a good question. There's a few teams that I'm kind of thinking about back and forth. So I want to take one quick look at something before I answer this question. Okay, just as I thought. Um, for the same reason I have the Titans sliding out, I'm gonna have the Colts sliding up. I think the Colts figure out how to get into the playoffs this year. I think that out of all of the teams that are on the bubble, granted, I know I'm picking the team with the best record, but I do believe they're still the best team out of who's currently listed. And I mean, if you look at schedules as well, I mean, both Tennessee and Indianapolis benefit from getting to play the Jags twice. And I'm not saying and was it Houston as well twice. So there's that benefit. You're playing essentially the two worst teams in football minus the Lions. I mean, you could couple them. Actually, I very well may have the Lions better than them because they played everyone close at least. That's just me. Um, so yeah, man. I got the Colts. They have pieces. They look good. Um, they play everybody pretty tough. They're well coached. I like them, and they get some rest this week too.
Yeah, and I would agree with the AFC. I think the Colts is really the name that sticks out. I think you could have a conversation about maybe Miami Dolphins just because of how good their defense has gotten better. They're
True.
finally playing to the level that we kind of remember them playing last year on the defensive side of the football. Passing wise, Jalen Waddle is actually having a very surprisingly good year for a rookie receiver. If it wasn't for Jamar Chase, he would probably be up there for one of the better receivers, if not the best rookie receiver this year. But those are really the only two names that stick out. Obviously, the Steelers could make it just because the Ravens could potentially fall out along with the Bengals. That the whole division, the AFC North, is kind of up and down all year long. No one's
Tough
really
division.
pushing them away exactly. So Steelers uh, somehow, some way, with Big Ben on one wheel and a peg leg, making his way into the playoffs could potentially happen, but I just don't see any other team there in the AFC. As for the NFC, um, this one's a little bit more difficult. There's not really a team that just kind of just sticks out as a potential jump in. I mean, when you're looking at teams 10, 11, and 12, that's the rest of the NFC South is they're all grouped together, all at 5 and 7. Uh,
Hmm.
None of them is going to be able to push for the playoffs, I don't think. Carolina doesn't have a quarterback. Atlanta just doesn't have the pieces necessary, and the Saints need Taysom Hill to be Drew Brees with wheels, basically. Um, it's just not going to happen. So really, that kind of just leaves the Eagles and the Vikings at this point, and we know what Kirk Cousins is. He's actually having a good year. It's just he doesn't.
Defense.
Yeah, defensively, the health of the run game. If they can get one of those guys healthy, which Dalvin Cook is healthy tonight, he's going to play after dislocating his shoulder a week and a half ago, which is an amazing turnaround. But I don't really want to pick either of these teams. But I'm gonna have to pick one of them. I, I, I guess I'll pick the Eagles just because the division that they're in. I mean, the Vikings aren't going to catch the Packers at this point. Obviously, they can still catch either the Washington football team or the 49ers at this point, but I guess I'll say Eagles. I'm not sure why. Maybe because they're on a bye, gives them a little bit of a rest. Fletch, who are you picking out of the NFC?
Had to ask me, huh?
Oh, I had to ask you. I saw you stop before. I had to keep going.
Yeah, yeah, man. No one. No, I'm kidding. The I think what the biggest thing that's going to come down to this is going to be honestly the schedule. Uh, and I'll tell you this: where Minnesota gets the benefit, they get to play the Bears twice. They should be able to handle that. They also get a Steeler team this week, which
Tonight.
yeah, I and on air that game starts actually in about a minute or so for the people at home. But they need this win tonight. If they get this win tonight, then I like them to do it. You know what's interesting about the Eagles schedule though, Clark, man? They're all NFC East opponents left.
Yep.
Two games against the Washington football team playing the best football of the year. They do have the Giants game, and then they have the Cowboys to finish the season. Um, I am going to go with the Vikings if I had to pick a team. And I think the NFC as it is currently constructed will be the playoffs. I just don't know about the Niners quite yet. If I had to pick the Niners sliding out, I'm going with the Vikings simply because they get the Bears twice, whereas the Eagles have to play the Cowboys and the Washington football team twice.
Yeah, it's just the pause that both of us had in trying to pick a
Yeah,
team out of this.
it's tough.
It's very tough. I think in years past you would have seen the Seahawks down here and said, "Yep, they've got a real good chance." But I mean, they're only out
No,
of it a couple of games behind the Niners. They just beat the Niners.
they
Um,
have to win almost every game, I think.
yeah, they got to push quite a bit. They've put themselves in quite the hole to get out of.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll stick with the Eagles. You've got the Vikings. On the other side, we both had the Colts. We will reconvene next week because all this is going to be mixed up once again and see where the ping pong balls fall this week. Um, it is so much parity. Everything can change. I think at one point there, the difference between this, I think the stat was, I'm not going to and they probably won't get it right. It was like between the difference between the second and the 13th team was like a game and a half at one point. Uh, in the I think in the AFC, I think they said
That's insane.
just that's how close everyone is. So just like a game
Yeah.
where you think, oh, Titans versus Jags should be an easy win for the Titans. Literally, this game could literally push the Titans uh, down to the 4 spot pretty quickly. Just completely pushing them a little bit further out, and depending on what the Chargers do, could potentially do that as well. It's
That's crazy. The Chargers could literally free fall if they lose this game. As good as they've been playing, but they could literally free fall to 12.
yeah, that's just how close it is. And funny enough, our fantasy football league was just the same way. At this point, we've got 4 more spots to fill, and we have a lot of teams vying for them.
Hey,
Um,
Clark, man, I wish you luck, dog. I really do. Because me and you both, right now, we are actually in the playoffs if they started today. And I'll be honest with you, it is almost miraculous for both of us. I think I can speak for you on that one as well because I know your struggles and I know you know mine. This has been a ridiculous season, but Clark, we are currently in the playoffs. We win and we are in.
it's that simple. Win and we are in, even though my team has the second most points against, even though I'm the third highest scoring team in the league, and you have one of the lowest scores against you.
No,
What?
no. The lowest. Oh, against me, yes, but I have
Yeah, against you.
the lowest, Clark. Do you hear me at home, people?
Oh.
This is what you call playing the matchups. I've played the matchups, and I've gotten lucky. There's some matchups where I've blatantly played. For instance, I was skeptical against Tyler Lockett, but I had him with Russell Wilson, and guess what happened? Russell Wilson didn't have a great game overall, but Tyler Lockett did. So here we are. So it's possible. Just play your matchups, people, and just pray and hope for the best. Because I can't say there's definitely a lot of luck involved with me this season. I have no I have no business being in the playoffs right now, Clark. I should be bottom three right now. I should be scared to go to Waffle House. Is what I should be right now. But
I mean,
here I am.
sadly enough, even if you lose, there could be 2 other teams that lose as well, and you're still in.
Amazing, but I need to win. Still amazing. So, that's a hell of a way to end the show, man. That's well, I definitely wish you luck. We'll be in if we're in. We may even slide up if we win. And let's hope that happens. We need a little. I think we need a little bit above a buffer zone as well, because it's getting pretty shaky out there.
Yeah, definitely need a win and you're in. Uh, well, I think that is the end of the podcast this week. Went pretty well with not so much news and notes, but we powered through. As for now, my name is Clark Heron, aka the Hairy Hobo, and we're out.
Peace.